القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين، ولعنة الله على أعدائهم وغاصبي حقوقهم وقاتليهم أجمعين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى في قرآنه المجيد والفرقانه الحكيم وقوله الحق: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. صلوات.
اللهم صل على محمد.
This ayat of the Holy Quran, which I had the honor of presenting in front of you, can be found in Surah Al-Hamd, ayat number 6 and 7, in which we are calling on to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we are saying, "O Allah, guide us onto the correct path, the path of those upon whom you have bestowed your favors, not the path of those who you have sent down your wrath upon, nor of those who have gone astray." Dua or supplication is the most powerful tool that we as the followers of the Ahlul Bayt have. Surah Al-Hamd, which we recite minimum 5 times a day in our daily prayers. The first half of Surah Al-Hamd is the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where we are speaking about the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and these last two ayats is a dua, is a supplication in which we are asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide us upon the right path. Now here, before we go into discussion, most importantly is we must understand that Arabic, even though it is a sweet language, it is a very delicate language. If in Arabic, when we study Arabic syntax, Arabic nahv, grammar, we learn that one word has more than 14 meanings. Every word has more than 14 meanings. And it all depends on the signs, the fathas, the kasras, and the pesh. If we change it up and down, the whole meaning changes. Simple example, in Surah Al-Hamd, we said the first ayat, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. The lam has a fatha on it. When we say Alameen, it means praise be to the Lord, Lord of the universes, or Lord of the worlds. When we put a kasra on the lam, Alameen, the whole meaning changes. When we say Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, praise be to the Lord, Lord of the knowledgeable. The meaning has completely changed. It is the same in our du'as. When we pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we ask Him for His blessings, we must make sure that our pronunciation is correct. Yes, it is true that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what is in our hearts. We may be reciting something else, but He had that saying that you scratch my back, I scratch yours. You must try your best. Make sure that you pronounce it correctly, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will listen to you. Why is it that majority of us we do du'as and then we say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not listen to our du'as? Why will He listen to us when we are cursing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala instead of blessing Him? There's a certain word in Du'a Kumal where we are thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for His glory, for all His blessings, for His ni'mats that He has sent down upon us. The word has a fatha on it. We change it. Majority of us, because of the speed or because we are not used to it, we recite it with the kasra, because the kasra slips on the tongue a lot more easily than fatha does. So we recite it with the kasra, and instead of us glorifying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we are cursing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And yet we say that Allah does not accept our praise. Why will He accept our praise when we are cursing Him? Salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa alayhi.
Let's understand that Allah is the most merciful, the most beneficial. We recite Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Rahman ar-Rahim are His attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We know that Allah has 99 names. Or when we recite Dua Josh al-Kabir, we come to understand that Allah has over 1,000 names. These are not His names, these are His attributes. But Why is it that we always recite Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, praise be Lord, who is I start in the name of God, Allah, the most merciful, the most beneficial. Why do we not use any of his other 100 or 98 attributes? Why is it that we do not start Bismillah ar-Qahhar al-Jabbar, for example? Why is it that we always use ar-Rahman and ar-Rahim? Because these two attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are his biggest attributes. All the rest of his attributes flow or stem from these two attributes of Rahman and Rahim. It is because Allah is Rahman that he is Rahim. It is because Allah is Rahman that he is Qahhar. It is because Allah is Rahim that he is Jabbar. All of these attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala stem from Rahman and Rahim. It is because he is merciful, it is because he is beneficial, that he has given us the sense of forgiveness. He has told us to do tawbah, ask for forgiveness. Forgiveness in the form of du'as. There's that, we recite this dua on Ziyarat Arafah, Dua Arafah, Imam Hussain on the day of Arafah. The Imam Hussain is saying that, oh Allah, put that fear into me as if you are standing in front of me. We recite this in Dua Nudbah. That, oh Allah, put that fear into me as if you are standing in front of me. He's telling us to understand the importance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the values of Allah. And also, at the same time as the values of Allah, we must understand our own values, our own characteristics, our own behaviors. So that when we do start to think of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we tremble in fear of Allah. That we don't fear him because he is the most powerful. We do not fear him because he can get angry. We fear him because he is merciful. We fear him because he is beneficial. We fear him that he has given us this life, yet we are not able to thank him. We fear him that we cannot count the amount of breaths that we take in a day. Salawat.
Salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Bar Muhammad wa ali Muhammad bulandar salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
थोड़ा सा आवाज़ आपसे कह जरा ऊंचा बोलें.
Salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
We shouldn't be fearing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because he is the most powerful. We should be fearing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because he is merciful, because he is beneficial, because we are not able to thank him, no matter how much we do. You have the many incidents or stories where the imams, whilst in prayer, are trembling and are crying out of fear. The question is that why should the imams be crying out of fear? It is so that they can teach us that what we should be like when we are standing in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We pray our 5-time daily prayers because for us it's a part of tradition. If we don't pray, we don't place importance upon it. Imam Ja'far Sadiq alayhi salam states that those who do not place importance upon their daily prayers will not have our intercession on the day of judgment. Meaning on the day of judgment, the Ahlul Bayt will not be your connection to reward, to bring you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have this argument that how can you believe, why is it that you pray to the Imams, Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, rather than directly to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Then therefore you're placing more importance on the Ahlul Bayt than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Here the question is that in this society, if I'm unemployed and I want to go for a job interview or I want to go apply for a job, and I know a friend of mine who's working at the same place, I will tell my friend to put in a good word for me to my boss, to his boss, so that when the boss interviews me, he already knows about me because my friend has put in a good word. This is the same way with all the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. We pray to the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam that we are following your teachings, we are following your commands, so that on the day of judgment you will be our intercessors. You will bring us closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You will, for example, argue or defend us on the day of judgment. When we are when we are given our books, our judgment books, in our right and our left hands. When we're given our books of sins and a book of good deeds. Once again, Imam Hussain al-Islam, we see Janab Ali Asghar, that when he was martyred, he had a smile on his face. Why did he have a smile on his face? Or all the Shuhada, all the martyrs of Karbala, why did they all have a smile upon their face? Because they knew they had done the correct thing, they knew they were on the right path, and they knew that they were going to be closer to their loved one, to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Holy Prophet. That is why they had the smile on their face. The thing is that we fear death. We as the followers of the Ahlul Bayt shouldn't be fearing death. We as the followers of Ahlul Bayt should be welcoming death with open arms. The question is why, even though we are the followers of the Ahlul Bayt, why do we still fear death? It is because we know in our subconscious that we have committed sins. Because we know behind our mind that we have gone against the teaching of the Holy Prophet, against the teaching of the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. That is why we fear death. We shouldn't be fearing death. We should be welcoming death with open arms, with a smile upon our face. The same way a 6-month-old child, Janab Ali Asghar, accepted and welcomed death with an open arm, with a smile upon his lips. We should be the same. We are his followers. Yet, because we know we have committed sins, because we have not placed importance upon our religion, upon our faith, upon the teachings of the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, we fear death. Death is what? Death is basically because we do not know about death, we fear it. The same way we fear everything which is unknown to us. The same way a little child fears darkness. Why does he fear darkness? Because the minute it turns dark, he cannot see anything. Everything becomes unknown to him. Therefore, naturally, he fears darkness. We should be such that our future, our hereafter should be illuminated. Because of our action in this world. That we know that I follow the teaching of the Ahlul Bayt. I follow the teaching of Imam Hussain al-Islam. I know that my hereafter, my end destination is illuminated. Therefore, I will not be fearing death. I will be proudly accepting death with a smile upon my lips. This is what Islam teaches. Islam does not teach us to be afraid. Islam teaches us to be aware of everything. Islam teaches us that it is wajib for us to find out the unknown and make it known to us, no matter what. The same way, everything, we learn something new every day. We have the hadith of Imam Ali that person who learns something new every day is of my followers. That person who does not learn something new every day is as if he has died a death of a jahil. We today, just by reading the newspapers, we are learning something new every day. Whether it be, I was born in this country, so I'd start with sports. Sports is a very important aspect in life because it keeps us healthy. It gives us a sane mind. As we have a healthy body, we have a healthy mind. We'll be able to think more clearly. The same way that Imam Ali has placed importance upon athletics, upon sports. He's told us to do 3 things: archery, horse riding, and swimming. The most important was swimming. Why? Because swimming, when you are swimming, you're using the whole body. You're training your whole body in swimming. This is not like some of our brothers say that it's only swimming because the Imam loved his swimming. Never in history do you see that the Imam went swimming. Imam said it for our sake. The same way the Imams alayhi salam recited the du'as, not for their sake, for our sakes, so that we are able to say what we learn from the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. We have that du'a sabah of Imam alayhi salam right at the end when we go into sajda and we're asking for forgiveness. Why does Imam alayhi salam need to ask for forgiveness? He's a ma'soom, he has been sent down by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is the best of manifestation, he is the best of creations. Why does the Imam have to ask for forgiveness? Has he done anything incorrect? Has he gone against the teaching of the Ahlul Bayt, of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Has he gone against the Quran? No. Yet he recited those du'as for forgiveness for our sake. So that we know that if our leader is doing this, for example, that Imam was saying something in Dua Arafah, oh Allah, put that fear into me as if you are standing in front of me. Imam Hussein does not need to ask for that dua. Why? Because he has been sent by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He knows the true capabilities, the true powers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is for our benefit that we recite this, that oh Allah, put that fear into me as if you are standing in front of me, so that we know who we are, we know where our position in life is, where our placement in life is. Not that we accept that we are the best of creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, therefore we have control over everything. Because we are the best of His creations, we can rule over others or torture others. In others, I mean animals. How many of us, I know especially if those of us who are from the subcontinent, or I know like in my family, my auntie is scared of dogs. Whenever she hears a dog barking, she says, "Shut up, O son of Yazid." Huh? We must understand that, oh, on the day of judgment, that dog will speak out against us, saying that I maybe have been a dog, I may have been najis, but I was not as bad as Yazid. So what what gave you the right to call me, oh son of Yazid? We must understand what we are saying, how we are acting, with others, with the animals, with those who are less powerful than us. So the animals are very little. Let's think about those who are from a different country than us. Those who are not of the same nationality or on the same social level as us. I know for a fact that it's within our communities in London that when you go into a Hussainiya in a Imam Barga, after the Majlis and everything is finished, when the tabarruk is being served, people are sitting in groups. This group is from this part of the country, this group is from this part of the country. This person is not from India, he's from Pakistan, so they're going to all sit there. And what really makes me laugh is that they're talking about each other. They're doing ghibat sitting inside the masjid. And they call themselves the followers of the Ahlul Bayt. The Holy Prophet came and got rid of all the isms, all those words which end with ISMS, racism, sexism. All of these isms, the Holy Prophet got rid of. Yet in today's society, the isms are at its peak within our communities. Because we don't get along with you, we're going to open up a new Imam Barga. That is what is going on right now. That because we don't share the same mentality, the same vision as you, we're going to open up a new society, a new Imam Barga. That is not what the Holy Prophet, that is not the purpose of the Holy Prophet opening a masjid. Like I said, the first thing the Holy Prophet done once he entered Medina was to build masjid, so that he could unite the community. The same way he made the Muhajirs and the Ansars, their brothers to each other. That is how we should be today. It doesn't matter what society you're from, what culture you're from, what background you're from. We are brothers in faith. We are brothers in arms. The same way that the philosophy of us shaking our hands, each other's hands, or on the day of each hugging each other. We are shaking each other's hands saying that you are my equal and I respect you. We are hugging each other saying that I have your back. We do not need to tell them that I have you, but that hugging is enough for that person to understand that if you're in trouble, I am there for you. Whether it be financial, whether it be any form of trouble. I classify myself as your brother, therefore treat me as a brother. Then ask me for when you need. Yet we hug them, but as soon as they've gone past, we start talking against them. We're backbiting against them. This is not what Islam is about. Islam is not a religion of contradictions. Islam is a religion of logic. Everything in Islam makes sense. The same way that the Holy Prophet has said that regarding his hadith, and regarding the hadith of the Ahlul Bayt, he goes that if they do not match with the Holy Quran, they are not from us. The same way it is that if something regarding Islam does not make sense, is illogical, it is not part of Islam. If it makes logic, if it makes sense, then accept it as part of Islam. Islam is the only religion. The Holy Quran is the only religion which teaches us how to live life. Teaches us etiquette, behavior, how to live life, how to do business. The Holy Quran teaches us how to do business. Yet, we have forgotten these. We are following the business rules of the Western world. Why is it that Iran is the only country in the world which is self-sufficient? Iran is the only country in the world which does not owe a debt to the World Bank. Why? Because it goes according to the teaching of the Ahlul Bayt. Iran is a country which in present day went through the longest war in history, an 8-year war, where it had no one's backing. All the superpowers were backing Iraq. Yet, I remember there's an interview both with Saddam Hussein and Imam Khomeini. With Saddam Hussein at the beginning of the war, where Saddam says that I will be sitting on the thrones in the capital of Tehran within a week. Towards the end of the war, you hear the interview with Imam Khomeini, he goes that Islam will be sitting on the thrones of Baghdad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
And if you look at that war, towards the end of the 8 years, Iran had started to overpower Iraq. Why? Because they had that belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They had that belief, that sense of martyrdom. They believed in Imam Sallallahu. They believed in Hazrat Abbas. Even though the majority of the Iraqi army was Shias, yet they had forgotten their faith, they had forgotten that they had Imam Hussein. Out of fear of Saddam Hussein, they joined the armies. Whereas you look at the Iranians, out of their love for Ahlul Bayt, they went into war, even though they had nothing. They say that one of my teachers in Iran was a general in the Iran army. It goes that we had to share our boots between 4 of us in war. That when we used to go into war in hours, when we had our sections, we changed our shoes. We'd swap our shoes so that he could wear the boots and go into war. This is their belief. They had nothing, yet they fought. They did not fight. They did not fight for Imam Khomeini. They did not fight for their country. They fought for Islam. They had the correct belief that they are fighting for Islam, they are fighting for Imam Hussein, so that they could free the Haram of Imam Hussein. That is why they were fighting. And they were succeeding. That is why today we believe that the Imams are alive. That's why the Iranian government, when it needs a loan, it goes to the Haram of Imam Islam. There's an annual report from the annual AGM meeting of the Haram of Imam Islam, where it stated that Alhamdulillah, the Haram of Imam Islam has enough finances that if the Iranian economy was to collapse, the Haram of Imam Islam will be able to run the whole country for a period of 5 years.
Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
These Imams, the Ahlul Bayt, they are still alive, they are still here to guide us. Our biggest mistake is that we believe that the Imam are no longer with us. We commemorate their martyrdom. But when we do commemorate their martyrdom, we must still believe that they are still alive. They are not with us, yet they are still alive there to guide us. We had a famous story of Sheikh Hilli, one of the Shia's biggest ulamas, where the people came to him in Najaf and said that there's a woman who has passed away. She was pregnant and she passed away. What should we do? Should we take the child out and then bury the mother, or bury both of them? Shaykh Hilli said that you should bury both of them. Do not take the child out, bury both. So the people done the funeral, the ghusl, and as they're taking the funeral to the body to the graveyard, An old man knocks on the door of Sheikh Hilli and says that what you have done is incorrect. If they bury both, you have committed murder, because that child is alive. Therefore you have committed murder, you are taking the life of an innocent. Sheikh Hilli thought over this, he understood yes that he had given the wrong orders. He quickly gave the orders to bring the body back, take the child out and then bury the mother. After they had done this, Sheikh Hilli realized how grave a mistake he had made. And he said that from today onwards, Sheikh Hilli will not be giving any religious verdicts. His doors have now been closed for the Shias. That same night, another person came to him that, oh Hilli, keep your doors open. When you give a wrong decision, when you give out an incorrect order, we, the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, will come and guide you. That is when he realized that the old person who knocked on his door was the 12th Imam. That is when he realized that no, the Ahlul Bayt are still alive, they're there to guide us. That is why I keep on saying that the Shia faith is the only faith which is still alive. Because we have something which we call the Ruhani Ghaza, food for the soul. These majalises where we gather are food, is food for our souls. Because the sanctity of the place has changed. Yes, this may be a normal house, a sitting room, a lounge. During the rest of the year, it may have a different atmosphere. But today that there is a majlis here, the sanctity of this place has changed. We know that the Ahlul Bayt are here. We know that Bibi Fatima Zahra is here. The Holy Prophets are here. The sanctity has changed. Our mentality has changed. We make sure that I'm going to a majlis, I'm not wearing dirty clothes. I'm clean, I've had a shower. The same way that we say that before namaz we should spray ourselves, we spray ourselves. So that this atmosphere becomes spiritual. Our mentality, you will notice that even the children, when they're inside the Hussainiyah, they do not mess around. Even though it is natural for a child to mess around, to play. Yet he sits quietly, even though he does not understand what is happening. Yet, because the atmosphere has changed, he knows that something important is going on. He sits quietly. You have those hyperactive children. That is up to us, the parents, to tell them the importance of where you are sitting, the etiquette of where you are sitting. The same way that the social schools, the primary schools, the high schools and colleges, they teach us everything. But the most important thing which they must teach us, social etiquette, our behaviors, they do not teach. Our children learn etiquette from where? From Masjid, from the school of Imam. This is where they learn behavior. This is where they learn how they should solve their problems, or how they should construct their characteristics. This is where they are taught all of this. This is where they are taught how to become a good human being, a good person. They're not taught this in social schools. They're not taught this in primary schools or high schools. This is all taught, the way of life is taught in these schools, which we call the Hussainiyas, which we call the Imam Mahallahs. This is where they are taught the way of life. The social aspect, which they learn in the schools, they bring it together. They connect the two. What they have learned in the Hussainiyas, what they have learned in the Moharram Masajid, and what they have learned in schools, they bring it together and they lead the best of lives. At the moment, we believe that our Barajas, they only know about Islam and nothing else. Yet we have a Ayatollah which Allama Hassan Zadeh Amuli. He's a mystic. Yet he's one of the world's biggest mathematicians. The USA has a World Mathematics Olympiad every year, or every 4 years. They come to Allama Hassan Zadeh Amuli to ask him to write down the questions for this Olympiad. They do not go to the world's greatest mathematicians which are known to man. They go to someone who is unknown to the world. Allama Hassan Zadeh Amuli. Half of our own community do not know who he is. Forget the rest of the world. Yet they go to him and ask him to write down the world's most difficult mathematics questions. He has learned it from whom? He didn't go to school. If you read his biography, he never went to school. He went to Hausa. He went to Islamic seminary. He learned this from the teaching of Imam Ja'far Sadiq. He states this himself, that I learned mathematics from Imam Ja'far Sadiq. Even though Allama Hassan Zadeh Ahlul is still alive today, he goes that I learned this from Imam Ja'far Sadiq. He is the father of modern sciences. He taught us biology, physics, chemistry, mathematics. Not who we call the modern father of sciences. It was Imam Ja'far Sadiq who taught us all of this. Imam Ja'far Sadiq was the person who founded the first Islamic university, or should I say the first university in history. We must study this. This book you can find in the British Encyclopedia, the 17th edition of the British Encyclopedia, under education. It is written that the first university known to man was created by Abu Abdullah Ja'far ibn Muhammad al-Sadiq.
Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Yet you look at our so-called Muslim countries. We do not have any universities. The ratio of students to universities is less. Yet you live in the West, there are more universities than students. Why? Because the West or the non-Muslims have placed importance upon the education. They know how far education can get us. I remember I was in Melbourne a few years ago for Moharram. I was reading a local newspaper and they said that in Sydney that opened up a new museum where they call the Museum of Etiquette. I was shocked that the first time I'm hearing of a museum regarding etiquette. So I went down to Sydney to see this, and there were books on etiquette and how we should behave and how we should build our characteristics. These books we could open, we could change the pages on. They were not protected. Yet in the centerpiece there was a special book which was covered by glass. I went to see it, and it's called The Peak of Eloquence, otherwise known as Nahj al-Balagha by Imam Ali Islam. They had covered it in glass. I asked the curator, why is this book being given so much importance? Why is it covered with glass and made a centerpiece? It goes that we have read over 75,000 books on etiquette. Yet this book was written 1400 years. The person regarding this book existed 1400 years ago. And we have till date not found a better book on etiquette. This is our Imams. This is the Nahj al-Balagha, where Nahj al-Balagha, Imam Ali writes his will to his sons. How? He does not write, the first thing he does not in his will to Imam Hassan is not about how he should distribute of his finances, the Imam's finances, or who should get what of the Imam's property. Yet he writes, the first word in the will of Imam Ali to Imam Hassan is that Ibn al-Mulzim hit me with one strike. You should also hit him with one strike. He teaches equality. The second verdict in the will is that how we should treat others. Treat others as though you would treat yourself. He's telling his will to his son, which is classified as his private will, is how he should be treating others. Forget his will that Imam Ali wrote to the public. This is his will to Imam Hassan and Imam Hassan, his sons. His private will, and he's telling his sons how he should be treating others. In reality, when we look at this will of Imam Ali, this will of Imam Ali was not to his sons Imam Hassan and Imam Hussain, because Imam Hassan and Imam Hussain were Imams. They were saying about this will was for us. That we as followers of Imam Ali, how we should be treating others. So that others, just by looking at our characteristics, just by looking at our behavior, should be able to say that this is a follower of Ali ibn Abi Talib. This is how our characteristics should be. This is how our behavior should be. Not that they look at us and say that this is so-called Muslim. I remember when I was a child, we went to Asda or somewhere. my father, and when we got back, my father has that adat where he would always look at his receipt and then look at the goods that he has bought. So he looked at it, he was matching the two, and he saw that we had bought, I think it was fruit or something, which they had not counted in the receipt. At that time it was too late. The next day my father went back with the fruit. And he said, I want to speak to the manager and that woman who was on the till. And go that, listen, this is the receipt. You have not counted this in the receipt. I'll come back to return it. That person looked at my father and said that, you must be a Muslim. My father goes, how do you know? He goes, I have read the biography of the Holy Prophet. And this, what you have done, matches with the biography of the Holy Prophet, the characteristics of the Holy Prophet. This is how our behavior should be. And then he gave us a £50 voucher. So that because you returned this to us, he gave us a gift. We, by our characteristics, should win over the rest of the world. The same way the Holy Prophet preached Islam, not by the sword, but by his words, by his characteristics. The same way when a companion of the Holy Prophet came to the Holy Prophet and said, "Oh Prophet, my two sons had become Muslims. Yet, when they went to Syria to do business, they went back to Christianity. Do you give me permission to bring them back by the sword and turn them back into Muslims?" The Holy Prophet goes, "No. You are not allowed to pick up your sword. If you want to bring them back to Islam, bring them back by your actions, by your words." There's the ayat of the Holy Quran in Ayat al-Qursi, "La ikraha fi din." There is no compulsion in religion. Means we cannot, this ayat gives us two aspects to understanding. One is that we cannot force our religion upon others. The second is that once we have accepted religion, we must obey everything. The same way that when we sign a contract for our mortgage, the first thing we do is read the fine print, because the interest rate may be higher. We may not agree with the interest rate, or we may not agree with certain fine points in the contract, yet we still sign it. Why? Because for the greater good, we become owner of a house. The house becomes ours. We do not accept certain of the fine print, certain points from the fine print,
terms and conditions.
Terms and conditions. Yet we still sign the contract. The same way with Islam. We may not, because we are not educated enough, we may not like certain fine print, certain terms and conditions of Islam, but we still, because we have accepted Islam, we must obey the rules and regulations. The same way, we had a question and answer session in Bradford, and one of the sisters goes that, why do you force hijab upon women? No, we're not forcing hijab upon women. Hijab has been stated in Islam. You accepted Islam, therefore you must accept hijab. She replied that hijab restricts my freedom. Hijab does not restrict your freedom. That is a complete opposite. Hijab gives you freedom. Hijab gives you that respect. Hijab gives you that honor. You must notice, we live in a non-Muslim country. When you see a woman who is not in hijab in the road, you will look at her. You will disrespect her. But the minute you see a woman in hijab, you have that, it comes naturally that you put your head down. You do not look at her. You respect her. This is the power of hijab. The hijab which is Islamic, not the ninja hijab where you only see the two eyes. Islam states, what is Islam? What is hijab in Islam? Hijab is the same hijab which is in namaz, where we allow up until the wrists and the ankles, we cover the women, and the face, the hair, the women cover. They do not need to cover the whole face or wear gloves and socks all the time. Hijab, what hijab is recommended, or the hijab which is wajib whilst praying namaz, is the hijab which we do in daily lifestyle. These people who are going over the top, yes, they are restricting their own freedom, because they are not going according to the hijab of the Holy Prophet. They are not going according to the hijab which has been stated in the Holy Quran, the hijab which we recite, which we do when our women recite namaz. We do according to Islam, we will be the most successful, we will be the most respected of people. Yeah, that Mian Ravi, the middle lane, which we accept. Islam tells us to choose the middle, not the far right, not the far left. Those who are doing hijab to the brink on the far right. Those who do not do hijab on the far left. We are in the middle. Sirat al-ladhina an'amta alayhim, Sirat al-mustaqim. The straight path is the middle path, which teaches us do not go over the top and do not do something which completely exits us from Islam. Today, let us, in the month of Moharram, the first days, let us come to Karbala. And let us look at the son of Imam Hussein, Janabi Ali Akbar. 18-year-old lad, 18-year-old son of the Holy Prophet, of Imam Hussein. He was the exact copy of the Holy Prophet, regarding whom Imam Ali would always say that whenever I would think of the Holy Prophet, or whenever I would miss the Holy Prophet, I would look at the face of Ali Akbar. There are two famous, very famous lines, sentences by Janab Ali Akbar. One is that on the day of Ashura, when Janab Ali Akbar went to ask permission from Imam Hussein to go into battle, Imam Hussein would not give him permission. And he goes, and Janab Ali Akbar replied that, "Oh father, it does not concern me whether I fall upon death or death falls upon me." The same line which was told by his grandfather Imam Ali in the Battle of Siffin. Exact same words. Second is, when the Imam would not give him permission, he went to his mother Layla and asked her to intercede on his behalf. The Imam only asked one question: "How do you find death?" He replied, "Ahla min al-asal." I find death sweeter to me than honey. Hearing this, Imam Hussein gave him permission to go into the battle. As he went, we read in history that every time he would slay an enemy, he would look back towards his teacher, the person who taught him the art of war, Hazrat Abul Fadl al-Abbas, as if he is seeking his approval. He kept on going in. Then came a time when he reached where he could not lift the sword anymore because of the thirst. He came back to his father and he said, "Oh father, if you can give me even a sip of water, I can go back into the battlefield." Hearing this, Imam Hussein said that, "Put your tongue onto my tongue and suckle upon my tongue." So, Hazrat Ali Akbar done this, and he saw that his father's tongue is drier than his own. Hearing this, Hazrat Ali Akbar returned back to the battlefield, and he fought for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for the sake of Islam. And as he was attacked from all directions, and he was hit by a spear to his chest. As he was falling down, he shouted out, "Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah." As he fell down, the spear broke, and the blade stayed in his heart. Imam Hussein, seeing his son fall down, he went running towards the battlefield, towards his son. When he saw his son, was covering his chest with his hands, and he would not give his father permission to move his hands. As he moved his hands, he saw that the spear was still stuck in the heart, in the chest of Hazrat Ali Akbar. Here we come to the understanding of Zarat al-Warisa, the meaning of Zarat al-Warisa. When we say, "Assalamu alayka ya warat Adam as-sifratullah, Assalamu alayka ya warat Nabiyullah," we say this to Imam Hussein, "Oh, Assalamu alaykum, O Hussein, the inheritor of Noor, the inheritor of Adam." Why do we say this? It is because that exact incident where Imam Hussein went to pull out the spear, all 124,000 prophets were there, and they would shout out, "Oh Allah, you tried us with the biggest of trials, yet we do not have to face a trial as big as this. We do not." Noor goes, "Oh Allah, you gave me the flood, yet that was not as difficult as pulling the chest out of my own 18-year-old child." "Oh Musa, you made it." Oh, Musa says, "Oh Allah, you made me fight the Pharaoh of the time, yet that was nothing compared to the taking out the spear of Imam Hussein from the chest of my son." This is the meaning of Zarat Warisa. This is where we understand what calamities befell the Imam of our time. What Imam Hussain went through to protect Islam. We have this, a psychiatrist was asked this question by a Shia scholar, where he said that, tell me this, that a father goes through a lot of tragedies. His brother, who he classified as his right arm, was killed. He was not fed for 3 days. He was thirsty for 3 days. His brother was killed, his sons were killed, his nephews were killed. The psychiatrist said that this is not possible. The scholar says that this is not the worst. The worst is that he had to pull out a spear from the chest of his 18-year-old son. The psychiatrist goes that this is impossible. He would have died before he had done this. Here we see that after the incident of the martyrdom of Janab Ali Akbar, Imam Hussain his beard went white, his hair went white, and his back was bent. He needed support so that he could walk. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un, ridan bi qada'ihi wa tasliman li amrih, Maulana Hussain.